What's good, y'all? It's Pod.cannion, and I'm here for another yap session. That's how I'm gonna start the videos when it's more like a podcast style yap session video. And this is me. Um, I don't know what I'm gonna title this yet, but I guess I'll start off with the event that made me want to start this video. So I looked on the news, and a mosque got vandalized. And the way that the mask got vandalized was, I guess, a bunch of crosses spray painted on a bunch of crosses pretty much spray painted around the mosque. I don't know if there's pictures available, but you should be able. I'm in Virginia, like 757 area, so you should be able to look it up if you want to check me if you don't believe me, I guess. And that's along with everything that I'm about to say. Like, if you don't agree with me, just please do your own research. And if you find something that's like, you don't agree with, please discuss. I love having discussions with intellectually honest people. If I see that you're trying to be dishonest just to win your viewpoint or whatever, nah, you're probably not gonna get a response. Not gonna lie. But, you know, we're gonna get through this. So, boom. Mosque getting, I'm saying vandalized. And I'll start this off by saying I'm not Muslim. I am spiritual. You know what I'm saying? I grew up Christian. So it's like, I can kind of get it. Like, I've had some discussions with people who are in this, and I am calling it Islamophobia because that's what it is, this Islamophobic mind space where they feel like Muslims are out to get everybody, that they're trying to take over America, and that's just not the case at all. So we're about to break this down, and yeah, we'll start off with what my coworker said today, because all of this, like the stuff throughout today that I've seen, the stuff with what Trump said on the news, the mosque getting vandalized, and what my coworker said in the morning, all this is like, yeah, I got to make a video. I got to talk about it. So, pretty much, he was like, "Have you heard about the Muslims in Somalia? Apparently, they're wilding." Mind you, he won't say it, but he's definitely a lot right leaning because a lot of the times he'll come to me with news, it'll be something that a right leaning point has said that he just tried to like frame it a different way. But essentially, here's the claim that my coworker pretty much referenced, but put in his own framework, I guess. So there's about 80,000 Somalian, and I didn't even know what Somali was either. I had to look that up too. If you don't know what Somali, it's like it's an African country, not like an African country. It is an African country, and the racial population, not racial, but like what the religion of that country is Islam. Like it said it was 99% Islam, um, which probably gives what I'm saying, the other side ground to stand on with that, because if they see that the country from which they came from is 99% Islam, they must be thinking they're trying to do the same thing over here. But what I've heard is that the majority of like, and they Somali Americans have been here a while. It's just the highest population is, I believe, in Minnesota. So pretty much they're trying to claim that Muslims in Minnesota are trying to create a Sharia law, which is pretty much the Islamic civil code, to replace American laws with it. Um, the most like supporting evidence cited with this is the Sharia Patrol incident in 2017. It's just a specific isolated event, which honestly, I'm gonna talk about that shit just so y'all get the information on that shit. So, pretty much, the Sharia Patrol incident, the full picture of the incident pretty much boils down to a single individual whose name was Abdullah Rashid, age 22 at the time, and a small unverified group of followers attempting to enforce his highly personal extremist interpretation of Islamic civil law or Sharia law in the heavily Somali Cedar Riverside neighborhood of Minneapolis in April 2027. Now, to break down the main person of this event, um, he was a his first name, because usually when you convert to Islam, you're given another name that is not your colonizer's name. So the first name he had was Devin James Miller, and he converted to Islam from Georgia, and then he moved to Minneapolis. Um, Now, he claimed to lead a group called the General Presidency of Religious Affairs and Welfare of Ummah, and aimed to turn Cedar Riverside into a Sharia controlled zone. Now, with his actions, like he was seen patrolling the area, sometimes wearing a uniform, either labeled Muslim Defense Force or Religious Police, that featured flags associated with militant groups. He approached residents and told them not to drink or use drugs, not to interact, you know what I'm saying, with the opposite sex if you're not married, advise Muslim women to wear the hijab, the head garment, and stuff like that. Um, and this is the part that I don't know if they mentioned this or not, but court documents from like a separate legal matter, because he got a handgun permit denied, indicated he had a history of arrests for impersonating a police officer, kind of like he did in this one isolated moment. And yes, he had mental health issues, all of that sort, right? They never want to, they only want to claim mental health when it's a Caucasian individual. When it's anyone else of anything, they're like, they for some reason conveniently leave that detail out. That's just something I wanted to add. But pretty much the crucial detail that's like admitted from the far right leaning narrative is this, other than what I said about the, you know what I'm saying, him having mental health issues. The other like crucial detail that's admitted from the right leaning narrative so far that I've tried to, I guess, represent that. And if I'm like capping, if you think I'm getting something wrong, not with the breakdown of this one incident, but what I said before about um, Muslims taking over, making Sharia law American law, and stuff like that. And usually, if I'm correct, this is the event that's referenced. Now, obviously, I'm sure there were other events that may have happened, but this is at least the biggest and most referenced one when people are talking about this. So that's why I'm breaking down this one event. Um, Now, this is the crucial detail that is usually admitted from the far right leaning narrative is the community, the 80,000 people in Somali, they swiftly and with unity rejected Rashid's actions by every major institution in the area. Local Muslim leaders condemned him. The Council on American Islamic Relations, Minnesota executive director, he stated what he is doing is wrong and doesn't reflect the community at all. He also called Rashid a liar who does not reflect what our faith teaches. Now, the person of the local mosque that Rashid initially claimed as his headquarters denied any connection and said we're against his ideas. We always engage our community to be a part of society, not take it over. Now, police and landlords took action, obviously. Minneapolis police were monitoring the situation after receiving concerned reports from residents. Um, Management for the large apartment complex where many Somalis live, the Riverside Plaza. You know what I'm saying? If you want to look up this event, like, let me know. Took steps to evict Rashid and banned him from patrolling the complex and citing him for trespassing if he returned. Now, this is pretty much the takeaway. From what we usually get, people thought like, oh, the Somalians from the whole Somalians in Minneapolis or something like that, they all tried to take over a city or something. And that's not the case. It was one radical person that did not represent everybody. That is like, which is what the rights did, see like two examples of black people being violent and then feel like you have the right to say, well, we do have the right to say whatever. It's just y'all feel like y'all can say whatever without consequences. But feel like y'all can say like black fatigue, oh, black people being violent again. When while all of this was happening, y'all ignored every school shooting other than the Charlie Kirk one. And it's like, that's when it's like, are you really truly being honest with yourself? Or are you trying to push a narrative? That's all I'm trying to say. So, as of narrative, the political narrative with my coworker, um, it amplified Rashid's claim to establish a Sharia controlled zone while completely ignoring the fact that the Somali community and local authorities immediately shut him down and publicly condemned him. The story serves as a flashpoint for those who want to portray the entire Somali American community as fundamentally incompatible with American law. So, that's the first event that happened, right? So, not the first event, but we had to talk about that Sharia law event because I feel like it is important and definitely plays a theme into this, right? Now, past the Sharia patrol event, right? Um, Let me try to think here. With the Sharia control of, or patrol event, I should say. Let me make sure. Yeah, because no, don't get me wrong, y'all. There is a lot I could say. I'm trying to pivot to the next topic, so to speak, right? Um, because I think the next thing that happened was yeah, the next thing that had happened that I saw at least was Trump pretty much being online saying that this, that, and the third Somalians are horrible people. They need to get this garbage out of this country, right? So when you have this, that, and the third all brought together, the mosque destruction, them for some reason really pushing home this agenda that Muslims are against us. And this is the other thing I kind of got to talk about a little bit. Um, this is like when I was talking to like one of my Christian friends, right? Now, mind you, I grew up Christian and all that. So, do not take, you know what I'm saying, what I'm saying completely, I guess, against you. Because I know, like, when people are like, oh no, you obviously, why are you talking about faith when you're not in it, right? But it's like, that's probably like the dumbest thing I've ever heard. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, I can observe something even if I'm outside of it. It's honestly better to look at stuff from another person's point of view. But besides the point, for 23 years I've been a Christian. You know, this is just a recent thing to where I've actually, you know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna do the whole spill. If you've watched my channel, you kind of know. But it's like, I'm intellectually honest with myself, and it's like if you want to have that conversation with me, I can do it, but I personally just would rather not break down people's like faith and stuff like that. Um, Especially if they're doing it for a personal reason and they aren't actively hurting people. But when you start using your ideology and your faith as justification for hating another group of people, that's when I kind of got to call out your hypocrisy. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of the things where they're like, the Muslim God says this, the Muslim God says that, the Muslim God's okay with this, the Muslim God's okay with that. Now, I'm not denying this. Obviously, like there are progressive Christians, there are also progressive Muslims. And even though the book does kind of say that, it doesn't represent the people. That is just like saying that all Christians are violent just because I could name a couple events of Christian shooters, but it's like it doesn't represent everybody. You can't do that. Like that would be just as bad as me doing it to anyone else. Like and for people to fail to realize that or fail to see the hypocrisy in which they are exercising, it's kind of sad a little bit. But it's also like, man, we gotta just do what we gotta do. So boom, we're gonna go on to the next little bit. Pretty much the political success. Yeah. Because a lot of the references in which people are using, they're like, yes, these and also another thing that Trump said, Trump called out one of the politicians who happens to be a Muslim, not Zoran Mamdani, but Ilhan Umar, which is a congresswoman. Okay. And Mohammed. Zainab Mohammed, I see, is another one. Now, they're framed as evidence for the takeover. So Trump like calling them out is just adding fuel to the fire. He doesn't really have he like when you'll realize when Trump talks, he never has any basis in what he's saying. He just says it confidently enough to where his fan base will eat it up. But we'll get to the political success. So, the election of Somali American politicians like Congresswoman, now I'm going to mess this name up, Ilhan Umar, and State Senator Zainab Mohammed is framed as evidence of a takeover or radical influence, even though their platforms focus on typical progressive issues like Medicare for all, student debt relief, and a $15 minimum wage. Now, I would be a hypocrite myself if I didn't talk about some of the sketchy stuff that I did see while doing this research. We're about to get into some of this, right? Because I think it was okay. It says COVID-19. So, yeah, around 5 years ago, um, high profile fraud cases, you know what I'm saying? Recent federal indictments involving a large scale COVID 19 related fraud scheme known as Feeding Our Future scandal saw dozens of Somali individuals charged while the alleged ringleader was not Somali. Conservatives and figures like Donald Trump, like I said before, use the involvement of Somali Americans to condemn the entire community, accusing them of stealing billions and potentially funneling money to terrorist groups, despite little evidence of a terror link emerging in court. Now, I did want to point that out because once again, I'm not Muslim. I don't have no stake in this fight. My stake in the fight is whenever I see one group of people blaming all the bad on another group of people. That is hate, and hate will never win. You have to realize Not everybody. You're more than the description on you. You're more than the worst thing you've ever done. And a lot of people don't really realize that, but that's the way that I see things. You know what I'm saying? So, I can't look past these fraud cases because obviously this is what a lot of politicians, not even just that being your faith, politicians in general love saying out loud, yes, we are doing all this great for the people. But when you look at the background of it, they are taking money behind the table. They are doing all this, that, and the third under the guise that they're helping people. Now, once again, there is little evidence of this, and even like in court, I think, yeah, because this went through court and she's still a congresswoman, so we can use the context clues in how that went. But even still, just being under investigation for this is something worth pointing out. Now, if you're a Trump fan and you feel like this is good justification, once again, you're still being a hypocrite. Our president has 34 felonies that he got convicted of, minus the current court cases he's in right now using our tax dollars. I'm not going to max out, though. I'm not going to max out. So, now let's get to the mainstream and like Somali American response, which is the reality, you know? So the actual situation is one of a large, politically active, and integrated immigrant community trying to navigate life in America while facing significant political backlash. So, largest community is in Minneapolis, St. Paul area. Is home to the largest Somali American population in the US. Like I said before, it's around 80,000 people. Now, most of whom are American citizens. I need to say that part slowly because, like, the main thing of people, like, blaming Somali Americans for, like, being highly populated is they think they just flew over here and didn't do the paperwork. Like, y'all gotta stop believing the first thing your right wing commentator person said. Because, like, if you don't look at, like, at least three different angles from it. Yeah, if they ring the alarm one more time, because that means more editing that I have to do. I'm gonna go up there. Because fuck is wrong with them? They lied to me the first time, so now I don't give a fuck about what they talk about. They're about to get, yeah, whatever. Now, let me go back to where I was. 80,000 people, yada, 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 and Somali Americans are highly engaged in the U.S. political system. Their goals in law and policy focus on civil rights, fighting discrimination, improving social services, and political representation, not implementing Sharia law. Local leadership, condemnation, local non Somali and Somali American leaders, including the mayor of Minneapolis, the governor, and organizations like the Council on American Islamic Relations, have consistently pushed back against the rhetoric. They affirm that the community contributes positively to the state's economy and culture. They could they condemn the generalization of a few fraud cases and condemn. Yeah, that's kind of the thing. Like, if it's a few fraud cases, these are politicians. They be playing the game. It's still wrong. It's still not right if that's the case. But it's like, you're going to be like, that's enough reason to get these people out of here when they're U.S. citizens. When they did the due diligence of what they needed to do. You know? Anyways. So yeah. To despite, you know what I'm saying, they condemn the generalization of a few fraud cases to condemn the entire population. They emphasize that the goal is not a Sharia controlled zone, but simply to practice their faith while being integrated U.S. citizens. Now, I don't see nothing wrong with that. That's kind of the purpose of America. A lot of people were escaping their country to be able to freely practice whatever. Now, here are like the current fear that I would say. So, the political rhetoric, particularly from Trump and others, has led to increased fear and anxiety in the community with reports of targeted immigration enforcement operations by ICE and increased threats overall, right? So, yeah, we're going to summarize all of this and then we going to end this out, right? So, pretty much summary of the discourse aspect, right leaning, conservative narrative, Somali community. The mainstream thing is pretty much Americans are trying to make US law into Sharia. Well, I would say on Somali Americans. Got it. Somali Americans are trying to make US law into Sharia law. The claim is false and based on one isolated, failed Sharia patrol incident that was condemned by local Muslim leaders. View of community garbage, criminal radicals who are taking over and causing trouble U.S. citizens who are interpreters, neighbors, and an integrated part of the city's fabric. Evidence cited fraud cases, the rise of Rep. Ilhan Omar, and the isolated Sharia patrolman focused on political representation, community service, and civil rights work to combat xenophobia and Islamophobia. And yeah, that's pretty much the summary. If you feel like Muslims are taking over this country, you're being stupid and Islamophobic. Like, I hate, like, I'm sorry, bro. I've just had too many in real life conversations about this, and I see this is only getting worse. So I'm going to put my foot, my hat in the ring now. I'm going to have my take so y'all know that y'all was fucking tripping when y'all realize that y'all are scared for fucking nothing. Y'all are scared for fucking nothing. And like, oh my gosh. Like, I don't get it, bro. I don't get it. But hey, let me know if I'm tripping, y'all. Like, if y'all like feel like on the opposite end of what I'm feeling, if you do think like it's real justification in being scared of Muslims, we can have a conversation, bro. We can talk in the comments, bro. Because this is something that I think needs to stop. Because we're focusing on the wrong enemies. The more we focus on the wrong enemies, the more dough the actual people who are making our lives difficult and almost impossible to live are going to keep on striving without resistance. The people who really need to feel it are the people who are actively taking money from us to this day just to fill their already fat fucking pockets up. Another side quest. I just found out Jasmine Crockett is a Zionist, and that shit broke my heart. Like, I fuck with Jasmine Crockett, bro. But if you are bending over for Israel, which I can't even act like I didn't know. Because it's like, even though she, like, didn't really take, you know what I'm saying, APAC funding, she still was pretty silent about Palestine. But I thought, no, we're black. You know what I'm saying? I know there's a good amount of black people who are like, I understand the good thing over there, but our house is on fire. We got to care about home right now. And I understand that point of view. But when you are actively asked a question about Israel and you talk about, oh, Israel's been here before I was born, and Israel will always be here after, oh my gosh, that hurt. Oh, I almost called you. Like, my support for Jasmine Crockett has plummeted now. Like, she got to get that together or she will not win. Because the tide is changing as far as that's concerned.
Nigga just came to me and said that I took my tooth out. I said, bro, I understand it was loose, but you just can't rip
You
your
can't
shits out
rip your
like that.
tooth out.
Look at this,
Chat.
bro. Came to me and said he ripped his tooth out, literally.
Oh
And
my
nothing
God.
was wrong with him.
Yo.
Not crying.
No, that's something I would do.
Like,
Yo, that's actually wild. Yo. No, I definitely would do that as a kid. Once I felt it loose, I would be wiggling it. Be like, yeah, I got this. I got this. I don't need to know. I would let them know just so the tooth fairy would come in. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, yeah, y'all. That's pretty much it. I'm not gonna go too off the deep end, even though I really want to. I really want to really break this down, but this needs to stay a 30-minute video so that it's at least somewhat watchable. Don't hate any group of people just because. Like, that's stupid. That's stupid. We are all more than a label. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can be Muslim and a whole bunch of other stuff too. Just to say that, it's just so short minded. It's hard for me to put into words how small minded that, like, approach to shit is. So, you know what I'm saying? If you heard what I'm saying, if you understand me, you know what I'm saying, like the video. If you dislike what I said, dislike the video or whatever. If you disagree and you feel like, you know what I'm saying, you have a more nuanced opinion, you you are actually going to be honest with me in a discussion, I will discuss with you in the comments. But that's just if you're honest. If you are responding to something that I have already answered in this video, be like, okay, you just didn't watch the video. Watch the whole video and you'll get your answer. But yeah, that's about it for this. I might do some reactions because I'm not gonna lie, like I be looking at like the influxes right now. It's kind of on the rise as far as like the algorithm goes. So I might take advantage of that. Might do a couple of reactions. Yeah. With that being said, though, I'm pretty much done here. If y'all like the video, like it, subscribe if you're new. Because when I'm not yapping, all we do is chill over here. And with that being said, be great, be safe, keep getting to that bag. And I will catch y'all in the next video. Peace.